Hey, good morning, guys. I've had some people asking me about the way Nathan and I highlighted our logic books when he was going through Challenge B. And so I thought it'd just be easier to show you in a video. So I actually got this from my friend Bobby Jo Ryan, who is in a different community, but she was our bookstore rep at one time. Anyway, she told me about this. We took it, we ran with it, and we sat down and we did logic together at the beginning. And I modeled for him. I showed him this method, and I told him, I was like, look, do it with me for a while. If you hate it, you can come up with another method on your own later, but for now, let's try it. Let's see how it works. This is a tough content, but so we're going to need to figure out a way to interact and engage with the material if we want it to stick. Anyway, so he did, and we did it together the entire first semester, and it actually went very, very well. So I want to show you kind of what we did. So I piggybacked a little bit off of the highlighting that we did with It Couldn't Just Happen in Challenge A. But basically, at the end of each unit, there is this page with these review questions. So what we did was, I have this beautiful bouquet of Flair pens, all right? What we did was, basically we went to the questions first. And we thought, you know what, if we were actively looking for the answers to these questions, it would help us pay attention when we read a little bit more. And then we know that we are catching the key concepts that the text is trying to get across. So anyway, for this part right here, the way that we did it, the way we marked it up, the color absolutely does not matter. We just picked a color. And for example, the very first question is number 1, what is reasoning? And I think I have kind of a hot pink color there. So when we come over here to the text, the introduction is here. I wrote the question. We actually copied the question on the page where we found the answer. So this one is, what is reasoning? And as you look in the text and as you read, there it is right there. Reasoning means drawing proper conclusions. So I had a little small ruler like this that my son had that he used it as a bookmark. And he would copy the question in any color on the page where he had found the answer. So he would look at the question back here on this page right here, like for example, number 3, what is formal logic? In what way is logic an attribute of God? And over here, as he's reading, when he realizes that, oh look, I found the answer to that question, he then chooses a color, any color, writes the question, and then underlines it on the page where he found it. And then we just worked our way through all of the questions. You could see number 3 was in that blue. At first I started this with some colored pencils and I realized it didn't really work very well, and that's when I shifted over to the Flair pens. So you'll see as we get into the next section here that you'll see that it stands out a little bit better. But as far as like the actual highlighters, I tried to use something not unlike what we did with It Couldn't Just Happen. I did pinks for definitions. So every time there was a definition over here in the margin, you see this? I would highlight it in pink. If I found something that I thought be particularly interesting and important, I would highlight that in blue. So that was a very subjective, I thought it was important, and so I highlighted it in blue. It had nothing to do with the questions in the back of the unit. If I saw something that was more structural in nature, like first, and then another problem, that kind of a thing. Let's see, over here, we have one of the 3 traditional laws of thought, and so I probably, as I had moved through this later, I probably would have actually numbered them with a green pen. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. So this sort of did evolve as time went on, but you can kind of see what's going on here. Let me get into another section. So again, we picked a color, any color. We copied the question on the page where we found it, and we underlined it using our little ruler. And then whenever there were numbered things, we would try to point those out. They usually answered a question. And basically, we just found ourselves marking things up all over the place. I think my pink ended up becoming something I only used for definitions. I ended up trying to avoid it otherwise. At the end of each chapter is this little summary. And so basically we would identify in the summary the question that had been asked earlier. Like, for example, I think I did this in red. So if I look back over here in red, it said, what are the 6 purposes for defining terms? I could find them easily in the text because I have the red, and then I can connect them again over here with the red, and I went through and numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just the sheer act of all of the thinking that went into kind of organizing the highlighting really helped us to pay attention and not simply fall asleep and start snoring after the second paragraph. So he would go through this with me. We would do it together. His colors were different than my colors, other than the pinks. I did have him do that in pink. And we just worked our way through it. And then usually a couple days later, he would watch the video simply as a review. And that really helped him to understand what was going on. And he liked it. He kept it up on his own. Even after second semester started and I sort of fell off the wagon a little bit. I kept up, honestly, until probably the last maybe 6 weeks or so. But he was doing it on his own and I was doing it on my own by then. But as we got into some of the other things where we were drawing, we just learned to scribble notes all over the place. It was honestly a great study tool practice, and it really helped us as we moved into challenge 1 and he had to do all of the annotating. He kind of, it wasn't so hard because we had already been practicing this idea of note-taking and highlighting. And you could see this. We made connections between the two so that we can understand what's going on. Anyway, so we really try to understand what was going on in each of the sections and pay attention to those summaries and sum up our thoughts, sometimes visually like this, a lot of times just with the questions. So anyway, I don't know. I hope this helps. And let me know if you have any questions.